Hi, let's talk Murtagh. We are going to be going over Murtagh's story from these first 4 books of the Inheritance Cycle by Christopher Paolini. We're going to go over his life's journey from birth up until the end of Inheritance. And then you can jump straight from this video into Murtagh. Murtagh the book, which comes out November 7th. This is also your spoiler warning for these 4 books. And I'm putting them on the shelf because they're heavy. Murtagh was born to Selena and Morzan. So in his veins runs the blood of dragon riders and kings. Palancar Valley, where Carvajal is named after the old mad king Palancar. Murtagh's story is not a happy one. Maybe an adventurous one, like Eragon's, but from his birth, he has no freedom. When he is born, he is immediately hidden from everyone except Galbatorix, so he can't be used by his enemies against Morzan, except Morzan uses Murtagh to control Selena. Murtagh is taken from his mother, only allowed visits every few months, I think. And Morzan, who does not understand love, does understand that Murtagh gives him a hold over Selena. So from the very start, Murtagh is being used. And not just used, but literally abused. He has Zarok thrown at him as a small child. And though from a young age he is used and abused by his father, he is loved by Selena. And later, when Murtagh finds out that he is not the only son, Selena had another, but Selena chose to take Eragon to Carvajal to be raised by her brother. She didn't take Murtagh. That had to cause so much hurt. Why would she take Eragon? Why would she remove Eragon from the place of abuse and pain? Why would she save him and not save Murtagh? Murtagh could have had the quiet life in Carvajal that Eragon did. There must have been so much resentment once he found out about that. And the resentment probably would have been way worse if, from the beginning, Murtagh knew that Brom was actually Eragon's father, because then there would have been that, well, Selena loved Eragon more because of Brom, which I do not believe. I do not believe that Selena cared more for Eragon because of who the father was, but I believe she had a chance and she took it. If she could have gotten out of there with Murtagh also, I believe she would have. The problem being that Morzan and Galbatorix don't know she's pregnant with Eragon, and they already know about Murtagh, so it would have been harder to get him out and hide the fact that he was out. Her love of Murtagh, I believe, is why she stayed for so long. Yes, after getting to know Brom and loving him, she had a change of heart. She started serving the Varden, but her son was there. And after going and having Eragon and leaving him in Carvajal, she came back. She definitely did not come back for Morzan. She didn't know where Brom was. She probably also kind of came back for him, but Murtagh was there, and I'm sure she came back for him. Luckily for Murtagh, he has been mostly ignored up to this point by Galbatorix. He was 3-ish, I think, when his parents both died. He's been kept safe, probably kept a close eye on him, but Galbatorix didn't have any use for him yet until his 18th birthday. Galbatorix calls him in and he inspires Murtagh with his vision of what the Empire could be, and he asks Murtagh to join him, and Galbatorix is hard to ignore. He has that powerful voice, and Murtagh says, sure, I'll help. He likes the vision. He'll help bring that about. Until he comes back again later and Galbatorix is in a rage and tries to send Murtagh to a village to just kill everybody. Murtagh was able to kind of see the more true side of Galbatorix, wants to have nothing to do with that. He was appalled. That is not something he wants to go do. He does what he can to escape, later realizes that the only reason he made it out is because Galbatorix let him, and he escapes at the cost of his only friend, Tornak. After staying with a friend for a while, he decides he's going to go hunt the Razak. He's heard this rumor. Could there possibly be a new rider in the land? To find out, he can track the Razak. If he happens to catch them and kill them on the way, all the better. But imagine Murtagh's surprise when, hunting the Razak, he runs into a boy and his very real-life dragon. It could only possibly be from the dragon egg that had been stolen all those years ago when his parents died. And I would like to take a moment to point out here that I do believe Murtagh has a deep-seated and natural goodness to him, but it's never been cultivated. I think he has a naturally good heart, like Eragon does, but he's had no one to foster that part of him and help that part of him grow. He's never been encouraged to be good to people. When he found the Razak attacking Eragon and Brom, he didn't have to step in and save them. He didn't have to stay with Eragon. He didn't have to help rescue Eragon and Arya and stick with them to the end. But he did. And I think if Murtagh had had that chance to be raised in Carvajal, like Eragon did, he'd be a completely different person. Okay, but back to first meeting Eragon. Oh, this is his first meeting with his brother. Neither of them know it. The first inclination they have of being at all alike is their sword fighting skills. When they start practicing sparring with each other, they can't beat each other. And little does Murtagh know that this kid, a couple years younger than himself, was going to cause him so much trouble in the future. He finds Eragon at a terrible time. Eragon has just lost Brom. When Murtagh hears the name Brom, he has to ask, is this the Brom? The Brom that I have heard about. The Brom that Murtagh seems to know more about than he should, because no one else should know this stuff. And his feelings are probably really complicated because Brom is the one who killed Morzan. Then there's probably even more complicated feelings once he sees Eragon bring out Zarok, the sword. That is the sword that scarred Murtagh's back. It's also the sword that should have been Murtagh's inheritance as his eldest son, but he probably wants nothing to do with it right now. It's just an object that caused him pain. Eragon can have it, but he probably wishes that it could be hidden away and he didn't have to see it. On Eragon's journey to try to get to the Varden, Murtagh does not have to stay with him, but chooses to. And I'm gonna say he is probably craving some kind of companionship. He and Eragon get along really well. They're probably more alike than they think they are. They have more in common than they think they do. But just having somebody to not be alone, it's a good enough reason to stay. He does stay longer than he should have. He kind of gets trapped into going all the way to the Varden. He did not want to. He's mad at Eragon. He wanted to just get Eragon and Arya to where they'd be safe and then leave. And the fact that he is stuck going all the way, he blames that on Eragon. Just the first time Eragon has caused him trouble. And, Eragon. It's so funny. They don't know they're brothers yet, but they have disagreements as if they were. That incident on their way to the Bayar Mountains, or once they're already there, I don't remember, where Murtagh decides to kill the bandit. He takes it upon himself to conduct an execution, and that rubs Eragon wrong. Eragon, such strong sense of morality. Killing the bandit right then and there is how things would have been handled where Murtagh comes from. Somebody did something wrong. Eragon is trying to pass moral judgment on Murtagh, and that upsets Murtagh. Who is this kid who thinks he can tell me what I have done right and wrong? Just another thing to cause contention between them and make Murtagh mad at Eragon. And one of the reasons Murtagh doesn't want to go all the way to the Varden is because he just got free of the Empire, of people who want to control him and use him. Once he gets to the Varden, he is going to lose that newfound freedom. He is going to be amongst people, again, who will want to control him and use him and not allow him his freedom. Once there, he does find that he can get a little bit of rest. He's locked up. They find out who he is. They're not going to let him go. They are going to pass judgment on him for who his father was. Not anything that Murtagh himself has done. And that was one of the things Murtagh was afraid of. It doesn't matter who he is. It doesn't matter what he does. He will always be judged because of who his father was. And they do. They judge him for it. They lock him up. They do not trust him. But for the first time, he is shielded from the Empire, and he feels like he can let his guard down a little bit and rest. And then a beautiful woman comes and visits him. He meets Nazuada, and he kind of catches some feelings, and those feelings last throughout the rest of the books. And those feelings are what allow him to gain his ultimate freedom at the end. But we'll get there. Not there yet. I did find it a little surprising that they let him fight in the Battle of Farthendur. I think it was good that they wanted to give him a chance to prove himself, but there, after that battle, the next phase of his life starts. He gets taken back to Urubane, and once he gets back there, something that should have been a cause of joy and celebration and happiness, something that should have been the best thing that could have happened to him, which was a dragon hatching for him, puts him right back under Galbatorix's control. Now Galbatorix will be even more determined to never let Murtagh get away from him. Murtagh will be even more controlled. That bond between Murtagh and Thorn will just give Galbatorix a tool to control them. He can control Murtagh by threatening Thorn, and vice versa. Threaten Murtagh to control Thorn. The very same thing that happened to Murtagh's mother. Galbatorix does not understand love, but he will use it to control people. Oh, and Murtagh hates Galbatorix. Hates what Galbatorix makes him do. Hates his loss of freedom, which his loss of freedom is even bigger now because Galbatorix knows their true names. His bond with his dragon is being used against him. The one thing he has right now to love and to lean on is Thorn. It's the one thing that Eragon got that Murtagh also gets. Once he finds out that Eragon was his brother and Eragon got to be raised in Carvajal, got to have some freedom, got to have a real childhood, Eragon got a dragon. Now Murtagh gets a dragon. But whereas Eragon and Saphira get to be trained by people who care about them, they get mentors who want to see the best in Eragon and Saphira. Murtagh and Thorn get Galbatorix, who is willing to be as harsh as necessary, who forces growth, who forces them to do things and suffer things that Eragon and Saphira are not going to have to go through. What should have been a joyous time of growing and training together is now filled with pain, but they're in it together. Murtagh and Thorn at least have each other. They can at least comfort each other. Now, while I do believe in that deep-seated goodness in Murtagh's heart, it is being pushed farther and farther down. His hate and his anger are being fed. He's still being abused, he's being controlled, and he wants to lash out. This is definitely shown at the end of Eldest, when he shows up for the battle at the end on the Burning Plains. He doesn't have to kill Hrothgar, but he does. He does want to lash out. He does want to win. He never wanted to have to fight against Eragon and Saphira. Thorn and Saphira never wanted to have to fight each other. They should be able to celebrate that there's another dragon in the world, but instead they're forced to fight each other. Murtagh and Eragon are forced to fight each other when they otherwise would not want to. Instead of fighting the fact that he has to be Eragon's enemy, Murtagh kind of gives into it, like, well, if I have to, I may as well do my best. And then Eragon gives him what feels like a false hope. The hope that maybe eventually he and Thorn could change enough to change their true names, thus releasing them from Galbatorix's control, even if it's just a little bit. Murtagh almost thinks it's mean of Eragon to bring that up. How dare you give me such hope when it's probably not going to be possible? Well, that was like a little prophecy for the future there, because at the end, Galbatorix and Morzan made the same mistake. They both forgot about the power of love, the thing that Morzan and Galbatorix can't understand. They'll use it for control, but they will never understand how it can change a person. Morzan made his mistake with Selena. Galbatorix makes his mistake with Selena's son. Murtagh does take mercy. He has mercy on Eragon and Saphira. He could beat them, but this one last time, he will let them go. He does take his father's sword, though. The one that should have been his, the color that matches his dragon. The eldest son should have it. And he thinks he's connected to Eragon through Morzan, their father. But no, they are connected through their mother, Selena. The blood of Carvajal, the blood of kings, is what really connects Murtagh and Eragon. Anyway, he lets Eragon go. He knows he'll be punished. He knows it's not a wise choice for him, but it's like this last little bit of grasping at being a good person. He finds a way to let him go, so he does. When he has that ability to make a choice and not be forced to do something, he chooses to be merciful. Murtagh is so convinced the Varden will lose. He has no hope. He just thinks it's going to continue in this way until the Varden are eventually beaten down. He just accepts that eventually he and his brother will be together. They'll serve Galbatorix together. Their dragons will be able to be together, but they won't be happy. And if Murtagh doesn't get to be happy and be free, then neither should Eragon. It's not fair. Sounds like brothery stuff to say. Yeah? And then at the end of Brisingar, Murtagh is used by Galbatorix to kill the last free rider from the previous generation of writers. Galbatorix got to take down his last remaining enemy from those previous days. And then we get to Inheritance. In Inheritance, we get to see a little more of Murtagh. In the previous 2 books, Brizinger and Eldest, he's more of just a background character, a new enemy for Eragon to have to fight. But now we get to see a little more of him. We see that his hate is turning more to himself. Before, his hate was on all the people around him, controlling him, on his circumstances. But he has had to do so much. He's done so many terrible things. And now, this last really terrible thing that he does was because of his love for Noswada. Galbatorix wants to take her down. He hears about the plan. He is the one who convinces Galbatorix to get Noswada onto their side to save her life. But by saving her life, he brings her into where she's going to suffer so much. She is getting tortured and he has to help. That was not his intention. He tried to save her and he made it worse. And he hates himself for it. But hey, at least they'll all be together in the end. Murtagh and Eragon and now Noswada. Murtagh has no hope. They'll just all be together. They'll all hate each other, but they'll be together. I imagine he probably would have been craving some time with Noswada, but not like this. He just wanted to be around her some more, to see her again. And at the end, not really the end, but in that last duel with Eragon, the one thing that he feels like he has left to live for is saving Noswada. For real. He tried to save her and made it worse. Now he wants to actually save her, and his feelings for her are so strong that in that duel with Eragon, he is willing to actually kill Eragon if it means saving Noswada. And the thing that Eragon notices about him is that his reasons have changed. After Eragon stabs him, Murtagh is saying, I could never understand. He always thought Eragon was a fool for Eragon's willingness to be self-sacrificial, and now he finally understands. And in that moment of understanding, Eragon's previous promise to him is fulfilled through the thing that Galbatorix never expected to happen. Some love in Murtagh's heart. I don't know if both Murtagh and Thorn's true names changed, but at least Murtagh's does. And it's able to change enough to free him from those oaths to Galbatorix. He's finally able to lash out. It doesn't really work, but it probably felt really good, and it did tip the scales enough to help the Varden and Eragon win. And now the 2 brothers can finally fight together on the same side instead of fighting each other. The 2 dragons, Thorn and Saphira, can finally fight against their real enemy instead of against each other. And now, at the end, Murtagh finally gets what he wanted. Finally. Has he ever gotten what he wanted before? He's able to save Noswada, and he finally gets some freedom. He's never had it before. The freedom he thought he had before was fake, but for the first time in his life, he can make his own choices. He can decide, he and Thorn together, they can decide where they will go and what they will do. They can decide how to affect their own life. And just that freedom to choose is freeing. And I think he chooses correctly in leaving. Eragon and Noswada might like him to stay, but they understand. Besides needing to leave for himself and Thorn's sake, I think Allegasia probably needs some space from him and Thorn right now. He's done a lot of damage, he's brought a lot of pain to people, and so he kind of just needs to separate himself. He and Thorn need some time to rest and heal and reframe their own reality. They never believed or hoped this would happen. They assumed that they'd be serving Galbatorix to the end of their days. And now they have the freedom to choose stuff, and now they actually have to choose stuff. They have the responsibility to say, what are we going to do with ourselves as a dragon and rider? This video will be coming out before November 7th, when Murtagh the book comes out. I already made my predictions for Murtagh the book. I will link that one, and I hope to see you back here for some more videos. Bye.